Hello, welcome to episode number 27 of 11FS Spotlight. I'm Melissa Stringer. In this weekly show, we shine a spotlight on the best and brightest in the tech and financial services industry to try and understand what gets them going, growing, and what they think the future of the industry will look like. A big part of the show is obviously your involvement. So your questions are really important to us, and you can leave them in the comments sidebar and we can answer them live for you today. So on today's Spotlight, I'm delighted to be joined by Clare Reilly, Chief Engagement Officer of PensionBee. Hi Claire, how are you?
Hi Melissa, very well, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Loving your yellow background, very sunny and joyful.
The brightest day.
So today is Earth Day. So happy Earth Day, everyone. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about PensionBee and sustainability in the financial services industries. So I guess, Claire, if you could start us off with a 1-minute elevator pitch for PensionBee, that would be superb.
Sure. So hi everybody. So PensionBee is an online pension provider, and we help people to combine all of their old pensions from periods of previous employment into one new plan managed by some of the world's biggest money managers. We exist to solve an almost universal problem facing millions of people in the UK when it comes to locating, combining and managing their pensions. So most people don't know their balance, they don't know who their provider is, they don't know where their money is invested. And importantly, most people don't know whether they're going to have enough money in retirement. And the reason this problem exists is because in the UK, the pensions market is just not very well set up to serve consumers in the way they need or expect. And we're here to change that. So our mission is to make pensions simple so that everyone in the UK can look forward to happy retirement. And because the product is for everyone, our vision and really kind of what shapes a lot of my work, and probably what we'll talk a lot about today, is helping all people in the UK achieve a happy retirement in the form of financial freedom, good health and social inclusion.
I think that's an amazing goal. I loved your comments as well about the common problems that we all face. So before the show, I was confessing to Claire that I've heard loads of good stuff about PensionBee, and I'm not yet a customer, but probably should be. To be fair, my pensions are all over the place. It's actually quite shocking, really, for somebody who works in financial services. So I'm sure I'm not alone, and there are many people out there with pensions all over the place and have no idea what their net wealth is. For me,
most people I speak to in financial services are in the same situation as you. Like, honestly, we really are solving a problem that most people in the UK have.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think there's like this weird opacity in the UK when it comes to pension, and we'll probably talk about it later. But sort of like, people are talking about open banking, but open finance is there's just a bit more opaque. There's less clarity and transparency, and I think maybe over in the US they're a bit more progressive in that area. So PensionBee is solving a massive problem for people. Yes, I should pull my finger out and sign up.
Well, we'll see. You can let me know afterwards whether
okay
you do it after this.
So it would be good to know, I guess, a little bit more about your role at PensionBee, and also where you kind of came from, what led you to PensionBee, and why you're interested in this industry to begin with.
Okay, so my role at PensionBee is mainly focused on our customers, and to understand more about their needs and their views and the general experience of saving for a pension in the UK. So my team works using customer data, transfer data, all of the data we've got, case studies, and we try and take all of that collective insight and experience and our customers' voices, and we try and amplify them out across national media, the investment industry, the pensions industry, and of course the government and regulators. And the problem that we're trying to solve is that ordinary savers are completely disconnected from the pensions and investments industry. And as a result, what we often see is that the products and services coming out of these industries are just not meeting the needs or expectations of modern mass market savers. And I think that's why we see these huge levels of disengagement and apathy around pensions and savings generally. And so, I mean, like, I don't have a financial services background, but and maybe that's uncommon for guests on your show, but it's quite common actually for PensionBee, because we actually recruit based on passion for the mission and the vision, rather than specific financial services background or finance degree. And I think actually that's been really key for us in building the kind of really diverse company that we have today. But it's also kind of about new thinking and new ideas and kind of fresh ways of looking at this universal problem we have in the UK around pensions and the fact that no one's engaging with them. So that's kind of my background. I didn't before this I was in the charity sector. I worked for both very big and very small charities in the UK and also internationally, and had a lot of very different experiences, some very challenging, but also very rewarding. And I think I've always kind of been drawn to work that has a real sense of purpose. And I think that's also why, that's the reason why I joined PensionBee as well.
Nice. Yeah. And I think it's a great thing to hire for the mission, especially something as universal as needing pensions or needing to think about your wealth into the future. I did wonder as well about your involvement with Yolt. What's the collaboration been like, and I guess what's the status of that?
Yeah, the interesting thing is, so I joined PensionBee directly from a big consumer charity. You'll know it, Citizens Advice. So I joined and I was working there in the corporate relations team. And at the time, there was a big FCA. There was an FCA occasional paper number 8 into customer vulnerability, and I was working on that paper, and I was working with high street banks to help them kind of embed some of the recommendations and findings from that report around customer vulnerability, and get them to understand, that when a customer of theirs has a debt problem, often the debt problem doesn't sit in isolation. It will often always come with either a work issue, a housing issue, an employment issue, mental health issue, and one of those issues will have kind of caused the debt issue. And so at the time, I was working there, and at the same time I was kind of talking to Romy about the pensions industry, and kind of Romy was telling me about all the stuff that PensionBee was uncovering in the pensions industry. And for me, there was this like huge contrast, because I in the retail banking side, there was this huge willingness to try and understand more about how to change their business to better serve customers. And then I was hearing from Romy about pensions, when she was telling me, they're coming across pension policies with 50% exit fee to leave, or like 5% ongoing annual management charges, or bombarding customers with paperwork. And I really started to kind of think about the pensions industry and learn more about the history of the pensions industry. And I think it's really important that we kind of understand why the pensions industry is the way it is. And the way the pensions industry is the way it is because our idea of a customer and the bank's idea of a customer is not the same idea of a customer that the pensions industry has. So for the pensions industry, a customer is an employer or an advisor. And the reason that this market is not set up to serve consumers is because the customer for them is not the end customers, they call them, right? And so, it really got me thinking about kind of how we can turn this industry that is, mainly offline, on paper, is not engaging with customers properly, how we can turn that into, how we can basically take it from like the 19th century to the 21st century in one step. And so when I joined PensionBee, this is a really long story, but when I joined PensionBee, I've been loosely kind of following the kind of open banking my data debate when I was at Citizens Advice, and I've been following it. And in 2017, when I joined PensionBee, I had this big idea that we need to get pensions into open finance. Like the way that we take pensions from the 19th to 21st century in one step is that we open up all of this data, we give people their data, and we bring it into the open finance revolution. And so that's not just about kind of giving consumers their data, but that's also about kind of optically taking off paper and putting it next to all your other balances, so that people can understand like a complete picture of their financial health. And so I'm going to come to the Yolt now. So basically in 2017, I found Yolt, and I was like, this is it. This is how we do it, right? Because we never had any ambition to be a marketplace, but at the time, this is when all these kind of marketplaces were starting out, like Starling and Monzo were talking about a marketplace. And So I approached Yolt back in, I think, like early 2017, before they'd even launched. And I approached the founder then, and I was like, hi, like, I know you haven't started yet. I know you haven't started you've launched yet, but like, you need to have pensions. Like, pensions needs to be part of this. And I think they were a bit like, okay, well, pensions weren't like in the business plan, but I convinced them that they needed to put pensions into this vision that they had of kind of, accounts all coming together and understanding like your today money and your tomorrow money. And so
yeah, I think that's amazing. Definitely.
Yeah, so that
makes them cool, right, as well, because pensions were not cool before, and now pensions, well, I think PensionBee is making pensions cooler.
That's very kind of you to say. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it engaging. And so of course now Yolt is, one of our, like closest partners, and they actually now, not only can you see your balance through our API, but Yolt customers can also bring up, PensionBee customers through Yolt can bring up all of their contribution history, their withdrawal history. And obviously when Yolt 2.0 launches late this year, we hope to build out on that further.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that though, and it's really nice to hear the sort of the evolution and how you found them. So from a customer's point of view, though, you mentioned quite a few things there. So firstly, around the fragmented nature of pensions generally, and the fact that it's mostly paper based and it's all through like intermediaries. So what is PensionBee doing differently? So from a consumer point of view, if I was to sign up, which I will do, how will you find the right plan for me? And what would we do about all of my pensions all over the place that I've forgotten about?
Yeah, I mean, so the right plan for you. So I think like it was really important for us when we designed PensionBee was that people always end up in a plan that's suitable for them and the right plan for them. And so the way to address that was to only have suitable plans and only have like good value, well diversified, like easy to understand plans that are only normally available in the workplace. So in the workplace, you get all sorts of kind of additional protections that you wouldn't normally get from the financial services compensation scheme, for example. So we only offer those type of plans. So if you come across the PensionBee, you'll go into exactly the same type of plan you'd have in the workplace. Additionally, we have some consumer protections in place around if you sign up to PensionBee and you don't make an active choice to go into a particular plan, you'll be automatically placed into our biggest plan, Tailored, which is a target date fund, which whatever age you are when you sign up, you will be put into a version or a vintage, as we call it, of that plan that's suitable for your age, and you'll have the right risk, a level for your age and the right asset allocation for your age. And then that plan will automatically de-risk as you get older. And so what happens is if you sign up to PensionBee age 30 and then you don't touch your pension again, by the time you reach retirement, it will have automatically de-risked as you reach retirement. And then you're going to end up, when you do access it at 55 or 65, to have this appropriate level of risk for your age there. And so those are the kind of in the architecture of the product. And then of course, as well, one of the big problems that people have is around, locating. They think, oh, I work for this employer, or, I know I've got these pots somewhere. So we've kind of taken all the pain out of that process, which is often heavily paper-based. And we just enable people to come onto our website and sign up in under 5 minutes and just give us really basic details about themselves. And they can just tell us some basic details about their pension. And then as far as they're concerned, they sign up to the terms and conditions and they give us their signature, and then they just, wait for updates. What goes on in the background is lots is going on in the background that we take care of, and we've automated a lot of those processes with the providers so that it's completely sort of frictionless on the front end, but behind the scenes we're dealing with the kind of a lot of the heavy lifting that you would normally have to do as an individual. And it's that very same heavy lifting that generally puts people off, and it kind of leads to just inertia really around taking control of their pensions.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a bit overwhelming, and you just defer it to a later point, and there isn't that sort of immediacy of the pain. I wondered actually if you're seeing an uptick in customers because of lockdown, because I've had a number of conversations with people that are saying that they're saving more during lockdown, or a bit more conscious about money. Do you think that's affecting the appetite for pensions as well?
I mean, so with us, I mean, we had a very busy lockdown. I mean, we saw that, you know, everyone has kind of pensions at the bottom of their to-do list, right? But what happened with lockdown was that everyone was at home and they were working through the to-do list. And so they were going into that drawer that's got all the paperwork in it. And so they actually kind of dug out that paperwork. And so what we saw in lockdown actually was a doubling of our customer numbers. And really this acceleration in the shift to digital has really, I think, you know, it's obviously helped our business, but it's also kind of helped. I think a lot of people understand that, like, you know, pensions really do need to come off paper now. Like it's shone such a light on how paper-based and how manual some of the kind of these big providers are, and you know, they themselves kind of have obviously realized that with this kind of, when everyone had to work from home in the space of a week, right? So yeah, so I mean, we've seen a big uptick in not only in customer numbers, but in engagement as well. People are genuinely kind of, they've had the time to look at this more closely, and they are getting more engaged with it.
So in terms of customer types as well, and adoption, given that it's you know, it's Earth Day, I think it would be interesting to also talk to you about, I guess, your consumers that are demanding green, because again, we're seeing that across a number of different you know, financial products, from investment to savings, and I think there's a lot of conversation happening about green and sustainability and responsibility in cryptocurrencies as well. So I'm wondering about this sort of intersection between sustainability and pensions. Can you give us a bit of context around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, all of those things you listed. Like, I think 2020 was the year that kind of, I think, the penny dropped in terms of kind of like pensions and like how we save the world, right? I think as part of that, there was Richard Curtis did a big, I don't know if you saw it, the Make My Money Matter campaign.
Yes.
Did you see the campaign? So yeah, so I mean, that was kind of the first time someone from outside of the industry, but also someone that was kind of a celebrity, has like tried to draw attention to this issue. And I think, you know, we were a partner in that, as a pledge partner in the beginning. And I think some of the kind of some of the headlines, I think it's a fantastic campaign actually, in terms of kind of capturing people's attention in a way that's never been captured before. And so he had some really good there were some really good lines around kind of, it's 27 times more effective to reduce your carbon footprint than not flying and becoming a vegan compliant if you move your pension to something more sustainable. So I thought that was really powerful. And I think people didn't really realize the potential that pensions have to solve some of the huge environmental and social problems facing the world without them. I mean, obviously not going to solve them alone, but we certainly can't solve the issues without them. And just to give you a sense of the scale, like in the UK alone, the UK pensions market is worth 7 trillion.
Wow.
Right? 7 trillion.
That's absolutely huge, actually. It's quite astonishing.
7 trillion. And that's more than private property wealth combined. And that money is held in companies around the world. And that means that we as investors and shareholders in those companies have the collective power with votes and to shape the future direction of those companies, and to move the dial, and to turn those companies from potentially from bad corporate citizens to good corporate citizens, and help them kind of drive their businesses to become more sustainable, and to drive their businesses to kind of help build a world that's kind of happy and clean and healthy and prosperous for everyone. And, you know, whilst also, of course, generating long-term value for our own pensions.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so empowering as well, because I think often when you think about deforestation and like the oil and gas industry and you know, fossil fuels and all of that, it's kind of overwhelming, and you just think, well, surely I can't really make a difference with my, you know, bottle and milk carton recycling efforts, all of that. But actually, the picture that you're painting is that it's an individual responsibility to make sure that whatever pension you're holding your money in doesn't subscribe to any of those unethical foundational stocks essentially. And actually that's really moving markets as well. So I think that could be a key driver of global transformation, because ultimately people, as you say, are voting with their money, which is kind of amazing. What do you think about the sort of generations that would be thinking about green? Do you think that David Attenborough has done a sufficiently good job of getting everyone to wake up, or do you think it's an obsession that's germane to like Gen Z and Gen I don't know, are we Gen Z? I think we are. I don't know, Gen.
I can't keep up, to be honest.
I'm not sure.
I'm different ones by different measures, but we've done lots of customer surveying, lots and lots, and what we see is that across all age groups and all genders, there is a really strong view on what companies need to do and managing climate risk, and that climate risk is investment risk. Like we see that across, as I said, all genders and all ages. I don't think it's just a millennial or a kind of one particular group of people anymore. I think, we are all more and more starting to understand that, these risks to the environment actually are financial risks as well. And so I think over the last year, we've definitely seen a kind of, obviously the environmentalists have always been leading the way on this, and they've always said, we need to divest from these stocks, or we need to be pushing companies to transition more quickly, and they kind of want to do that on moral and ethical grounds because it's the right thing to do. And then there was this second group of people who were like worried they're going to lose their shirt, right? They're worried that oil has no future, and they're worried that this stuff's going to become a stranded asset, and it's going to become a financial risk to hold these stocks in your portfolio if you can't sell them. And then there's like a third group who are like the opportunists, and they're like, there is so much money to be made in the future from investing in companies that are, leading the way in the green transition and are leading the way in being these companies of the future. So this is like these three groups now that are coming together, and they are all genders, all ages, and like all walks of life.
Yeah, and personally, I think that large institutions should be listening to the retail market on these things. It's sort of like an early warning system of them to actively divest, as you say, because I don't think we want our largest institutions to crumble entirely, but they need to adapt to prevailing attitudes, which is all around sustainability these days and being green, and very rightly so. I think we're all becoming a bit more responsible. I love your comments about everyone being a bit more, empowered and responsible to do something about it.
But there is one other kind of really important point to make on this, and that's that we don't currently have any agreed definition of what net zero is, and we don't have any regulation around it, right? So right now it's impossible for anyone, whether you're a normal person on the street or indeed a big company sometimes, to understand, like, whether working with one of these climate consultancies and they say, right, we're going to plant these trees in Costa Rica, and like, here's a photo of them, like now you can put a badge on your website, right? Like because there's no regulation in this space, like it's impossible to know whether or not you have actually done your bit, right, that you needed to do to offset or to remove or to, and I think when you go a little bit deeper into the debate, you learn that actually only a tiny fraction of the daily net zero claims, and let's face it, like they're coming at us from all angles now. These, everyone's gone net zero. Like what we actually learn, that if you talk to experts, they say actually only like a small subset of them are actually credible. But there's no easy way really for anyone to understand. And so I think the starting point here is protecting consumers, and I think we need some really basic parameters around like, if people are using ESG, ethical, sustainable, carbon neutral, net zero, like we need some clear like regulation around using those terms, because that's the only way to protect consumers. Because if you are deciding to engage with a company or buy a product or service, like you need to know that the claims that company are making are genuine and credible, and that's why we need regulation to protect consumers.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, and to give an example, it would be like fast fashion company that are using all kinds of hideous dyes that are really bad for the environment, and cotton production requires a hell of water and all of that, and then they're just sort of planting some trees, and it's all sort of balancing out, and then they get given a green badge to say that they're good eggs, when actually, probably not so much.
Yeah, so those people that make the badges need to be regulated, basically,
yes.
so that we can understand like what's happening. And I think the other thing that we need is that at the moment, if you're in a workplace scheme, like a workplace pension scheme, you will be defaulted into a plan that has, will nearly always have oil, tobacco, maybe weapons, maybe violators of the UN Global Compact. Like, it will have a bunch of stuff in there, and so you have to be very actively engaged, and you have to make an active decision to move out of that and into the ESG fund, or the ethical fund, or the fund that actually is more focused on understanding the risks of investing in those type of companies. And I think what we need to do as well is, I think that those ESG products need to be the default. Because right now, I think, it shouldn't be opt-in, like, you should be opting out. If you want to go and invest in arms and tobacco and oil, that's fine. The option is there for you, but you need to actively go and do that. And so I think we need to flip it, because I don't think it's fair, because actually these sustainable companies, these companies that are better at managing like all these different types of risks, are going to be financially more profitable, and they're going to deliver better financial returns in the long run. And so the idea that you have to you're not being defaulted into investing in those companies in the first place, I think is wrong, and I think that needs to be looked at as well.
Totally agree. Yes. I think we're definitely on the same page. So in terms of great companies that we can invest in, I heard that PensionBee has just announced plans to list on the London Stock Exchange. Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about that and the journey you're taking your customers on as well?
Yes, so our customers, so we, as a company, it's always been our ambition to list. And it's always been our ambition to bring our customers on that journey with us. And that's because we think all truly customer-centric companies, should go public, and they do generally go public. And, our main stakeholder, as our customers, we want them to kind of be able to participate in that as public owners of our company. And of course, that kind of feeds into one of our core messages around empowering people to kind of, engage with companies and to be shareholders. And so, it's a really important step for us in our journey and our growth journey, because we've listed on the high growth segment. But also we want to share that success with all our customers, and it's not just our customers, actually our colleagues as well. So everyone who is everyone who works at PensionBee is given an equity stake in the business. So we're all going to, in the future, hopefully enjoy in the success together of the business.
Oh, that's great! Congratulations.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Great. So as we come to the end of the show, we just want to finish off by doing a quick fire round. And I'm going to ask you a question. I'd like the first thing that comes into your head. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So Claire, if you didn't work in FS, what would you do?
I'd still be in the charity sector. Still in the charity sector.
So if you could have a celebrity market for PensionBee, who would that be?
Okay, Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis, and we have a Twitter channel on Slack, and we see all of the mentions of PensionBee on Twitter, and all the time people are saying they're tagging Martin Lewis and us as well, and saying, Martin, like, I need help on pensions. So I actually think there's a big it's a big gap in the kind of all of the information he's putting out there. So we'd love to. Martin, if you're listening,
yes,
we'd be pleased to have you.
Yeah, Martin Lewis, a friend to Claire.
Just to help people with their pensions.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got a moral obligation now. We need you. The world needs you. So when did you first start saving for your pension? Oh, that's a good question, isn't it?
So I, in my first job in the charity sector, my employer was very generous, and it's quite common actually in the charity sector. The employer gave very generous employer contributions. So then, and probably that's a call to action as well to people, like check with your employer if you're employed, because sometimes your employer will match your contributions up to a certain point. And so basically that's a free pay rise. So that's something to check afterwards.
Yeah, that's true actually, and all of the tax breaks associated with pensions as well is a really good thing to check out for sure. Great. So just before we finish off, what is next for PensionBee, and is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to say?
I guess, look, I think the listing really is like the next stage of the journey for us. Like we want to, the market's so vast. There are millions and millions of people in the UK that need to be taking control of their pensions, and so we just want to reach more and more people. And I think as well as we get bigger and the asset base grows, we'll have more power as well in the investment system to help be a force for positive change in the companies that our customers are invested in as well. So so staying focused on the customers, trying to be a good corporate citizen in a model company, and just reaching more people.
Sounds good. Good to me. Great. So everyone, we're coming to the end of the show. If you're interested in sustainability in financial services, we've got a podcast coming out on Friday on this very topic, and Claire is on the panel, so definitely worth listening to. Thank you so much for joining me, Claire. It's been amazing to chat to you and get to know about PensionBee and some more. So where can people find out more about you and what you guys are getting up to?
So PensionBee.com, there's loads of amazing content on there. YouTube channel, loads of great videos if you're just trying to understand more about pensions. We have a Pensions 101 series that explains everything you need to know about pensions in a plain English, jargon-free way. So I would check that out. If you've got any questions for me, I'm on LinkedIn, Clare Reilly PensionBee. So check us out.
Brilliant. Great, thank you. So that's all we've got time for this week. Make sure you follow 11FS on LinkedIn so you never miss an episode, and go visit 11FS YouTube channel where you can catch up on the previous episodes. Have a great week, everyone, and thanks so much, Claire. Goodbye.
Thanks, Melissa. Bye.